And now to the news. An inside Mission Impossible. Thailand's Navy SEALs are calling their amazing cave rescue the operation the world will never forget. And we're seeing for the first time some new videos of how they made it happen. A former Thai Navy SEAL diver explains that the boys rescued from the Thai cave were passed sleeping on stretchers through the treacherous pathways. Take a look.
เขาหลับแล้วแต่ว่ารู้สึกตัวเพราะหมอเขาจะเช็คดูอาการดูที่ประจรดูอะไรนั้นมันเป็นหน้าที่ของหมอซึ่งเราจะไม่เกี่ยวตรงนี้ฝรั่งเนี่ยถ้าเป็นวิธีของเรานะถ้าเขาจะเอาวิธีนี้ก็ต้องเป็นลักษณะนี้เป็นการที่เอาคนมาแล้วเอาเด็กเนี่ยไม่ใช่บางคนไปออกเขาเพราะต้องฝึกดำน้ำทุกคนก็มองว่าโอ้โหต้องไปฝึกอย่างมนุษย์กบแล้วเด็กสภาพที่ไม่ได้กินข้าวอดหลับอดนอนมันจะไปเอาแรงที่ไหนไม่ฝึกไม่ใช่หรอกเราแค่ให้รู้จักว่าเขาหายใจเป็นนะแล้วก็อยู่ในน้ำไม่ต้องห่วงนะเขาหายใจได้แล้วทุกอย่างจะปลอดภัยให้ความมั่นใจเขาก็น่าจะก็โอเคคนสุดท้ายก็ถือว่าคนสุดท้ายก็ปิ่งพอดีเกือบจะต้องใช้เครื่องหายใจ
Meanwhile, video footage has also emerged of the group of Thai footballers recovered from the huge cave complex in a dramatic rescue operation. The boys were shown recovering also in hospital, where they gave peace signs as people watched from an adjoining room. The members of the Wild Boars team, aged 11 to 16, had no experience in scuba diving, and the death of an ex-Navy SEAL who had helped install oxygen tanks in preparation for the rescue underscored the dangers of this mission. Now, divers had to depend on very little light. They had to watch out for slippery steps while they carry heavy oxygen tanks up and down the narrow passages. Thailand said it had called on 13 world-class divers to help with the unprecedented job, one of whom was Australian Richard Harry Harris, a diver and a professional anesthetist or anesthetist. Adding to the wonder of the mission, though, the water pumps failed just as the last person, the coach, was pulled out.
Rescuers have pulled a young Thai football team from deep inside a flooded cave were dismantling their worksite Thursday, as plans emerged to turn the spot into a museum in tribute to the daring operation. Rescue Chief Narongsak also Tanakorn told reporters that the site would ultimately be converted into a museum showcasing the clothes and equipment used during the dramatic rescue. Experts from around the world descended on northern Thailand, and rescuers pumped out more than 50 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water. A huge media pack of more than 1,000 journalists gathered at the mouth of the cave, feeding audiences all over the globe with every twist and turn of the dramatic rescue until its joyful conclusion on Tuesday. At least one film production house was already working on a scheme to make a Hollywood treatment out of the heroics of divers, cavers, and medics who risked their lives to free the wild boars. Michael Scott, the managing partner of faith-based production house PureFlix, said the company intends to pursue a film about the against the odds mission. Scott, who lives in Thailand and went to the site in Chiang Rai as the boys were being pulled to safety, made the announcement late Tuesday on Twitter in a video.
To other news now, Japanese rescue workers searched the ruins of homes looking for dozens of people still missing after deadly rains that killed nearly 200 people. Operations were underway to dig out and clear up the devastating floods and landslides that engulfed entire neighborhoods. But with around 60 people still feared missing, local authorities said they would continue searching house by house, looking for survivors or even victims. The rains are the deadliest weather-related disaster in over 3 decades in Japan, and the size of the death toll has raised questions about whether authorities were sufficiently prepared. The government has already said it will set aside around $20 million for the relief effort, and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said there would be financial support for local governments to help with the reconstruction effort.
はい、もう会社の事務所関係ですね、これが1階がもうすべて水没しましたので、その事務所機能とですね、タクシーと、バスとかその他車両のですね水没ということで、はい、車のもう損害です。堤防が決壊ということで、もうそれ以降はもう警察の方、自衛隊の方の指示でですね、もうこの1階から建物の2階に避難ということで、もうそれからはもう見守るのが精一杯というような状況でしたね。
もう本当私もね、もうちょっとしたら80になるけど、もう全然見たことも聞いたこともないですね。本当山の池山で山崩れが起きるし、こういうちょっと田園地帯がこういうのは大きな川があっても、それももう合流して土手が切れるとかあってね、本当もうほんま考えられないようなことです、これは。
一人暮らしのご老人の、逃げ遅れというんですか、そういうのはやはり急な雨で足腰の悪いというか弱者という部分があるんで、その辺でやはり、逃げ遅れというふうな場面が出てきたのかなというふうに考えます。逃げ遅れの安否確認、検索活動ですね、そういうような活動を現在しておるということです。はい。
The number of dead has risen to more than 180, while crews frantically search for any signs of the more than 60 still missing. Dozens of them are believed to be in one of the hardest-hit prefectures of Hiroshima. In Kumano, hundreds of police and firefighters are still digging through thick layers of mud. The area was caught in a major landslide. Crews have been looking inside homes, but they've expanded the search to the piles of mud surrounding them. There are also fears that a reservoir in Hiroshima Prefecture could still burst amid rising water levels. And authorities warned against the ongoing risk of landslides, with rain forecast in some areas on Thursday, as well as heat stroke in other places where temperatures approached 35 degrees Celsius.
More than 100 residents have had to be rushed to safety as water levels continue to surge near Kathmandu, with the death toll from landslides and floods brought on by monsoons rising to 53 across Nepal. 3 members of a family became the latest fatalities after they were buried alive on Thursday when a landslide struck their makeshift home in a village of Bhaktapur district, officials said. The extreme weather has affected 36 of Nepal's 77 districts, with 20 people injured and 9 missing. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology say further heavy rains are expected in next few days in the country's central, western and eastern regions. The monsoon season in Nepal, which lasts from July to September, causes disastrous landslides and flooding every year, killing hundreds of people.
To other news now, Philippine Vice President Leni Robredo is urging the government to peacefully protest China's actions in the contested waters 2 years after the country won the arbitration case on the South China Sea, or the West Philippine Sea. Take a look.
This is the time for us to peacefully protest any effort to limit or control movement in these waters. As neighbors and friends, we must stand in opposition to military buildups in the West Philippine Sea.
On July 12, 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague decided in favor of the Philippines on the case against China's claims in the West Philippine Sea. The Vice President said the Philippines must not take its ties with neighboring countries for granted.
Our hard-won victory was a victory of the rule of law and the UNCLOS framework, and provides the foundation for all future engagements in the West Philippine Sea. It also sets the stage for peacefully reclaiming a massive resource, much bigger than our archipelago's total land area. Sadly, since then, we have lost that advantage.
On issues which are non-controversial.
Meanwhile, Malacanang said the administration of President Duterte will assert, quote, what is ours, while moving on with bilateral ties with China.
Continue to assert our sovereignty and sovereign rights. But we decided to move on issues which are non-controversial because we know that the final resolution, particularly on the issue of sovereignty on the disputed islands, will take many years to resolve, since this was not the subject of the arbitral ruling that we won 2 years ago.
Former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario earlier this morning said that the government continues to be a willing victim of China and an abettor to Beijing because we refused to enforce the Hague ruling 2 years after we won the landmark case.
Number one, that's his view. Number two, I don't know what makes him an authority to give that view. Number three, I'm not sure what they mean by enforcing an arbitral decision, because an arbitral decision is binding on parties thereto.
Follow-up,
It
China?
clearly underscores the fact that some individuals, including the former Secretary of Foreign Affairs, does not fully comprehend the nature of arbitration.
China had rejected the International Tribunal's ruling, which it called null and void. With China's action, Duterte had decided to temporarily set aside the PCA ruling to give way to peaceful and friendly dialogues that eventually revived China-Philippine relations. The president, however, told Chinese President Xi Jinping that he would raise the arbitral decision before his term ends in 2022. For now, Secretary Roque said concerns about the West Philippine Sea, including China's alleged militarization of the disputed territory, are being discussed in the Bilateral Consultative Mechanism, or BCM.
President Rodrigo Duterte on Wednesday signed a law banning all forms of hazing and imposes graver penalties against those who participate in it or try to conceal it. Duterte signed the Anti-Hazing Act of 2018, or RA 11053, which prohibits all forms of hazing in fraternities, sororities, and organizations in schools, including citizens military training and citizens army training. Under the anti-hazing law, school-based initiation rites are regulated by only allowing rites or practices that do not constitute hazing. The head of a school or an authorized representative must also assign at least 2 representatives of the school administration to be present during the initiation to ensure that no hazing is conducted and to document the entire proceedings. Penalties as grave as reclusion perpetua and a 3 million peso fine will be imposed upon those who planned or participated in hazing activities. There are also penalties for officers, advisors, or of the fraternity, sorority, or organizations who are present during hazing, and even non-resident members or alumni who try to hide, conceal, hamper, or obstruct any investigation. Duterte signed this law less than a year after the brutal hazing of University of Santo Tomas law freshman Horacio Atio Castillo III, who died during initiation rites conducted by the Aegis Juris fraternity.
In other news now, NATO leaders held emergency talks at their summit after U.S. President Trump demanded allies immediately increase defense spending, throwing the meeting into crisis. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg called an extraordinary session of NATO's ruling North Atlantic Council after President Trump repeated demands for allies to spend more on their military, singling out Germany for special criticism. Let's take a look at that scene.
many countries are not paying what they should. And frankly, many countries owe us a tremendous amount of money for many years back, where they're delinquent, as far as I'm concerned, because the United States has had to pay for them. So if you go back 10 or 20 years, you just add it all up. It's massive amounts of money is owed. The United States has paid and stepped up like nobody. This has gone on for decades, by the way. This has gone on for many presidents, but no other president brought it up like I bring it up. And it's an unfair burden on the United States.
And good to have you here for the summit. And we are going to discuss many important issues at the summit. Among them is defense spending. And we all agree that we have to do more. I agree with you that we have to make sure that allies are investing more. The good news is that allies have started to invest more in defense. After years of cutting defense budgets, they have started to add billions to the defense budgets. And last year was the biggest increase in defense spending across Europe and Canada in a generation.
Why was that last year?
It's also because of your leadership, because your clear message, and
they won't write that. But
no, I have said it before, but the thing is that it really has your message is having an impact, and we are going to build on that to make sure that we have further increases.
Now, at that same breakfast meeting, he also slammed Germany for being, quote, a captive of Russia.
If you look at it, Germany is a captive of Russia because they got rid of their coal plants, they got rid of their nuclear. They're getting so much of the oil and gas from Russia. I think it's something that NATO has to look at. I think it's very inappropriate. You and I agree that it's inappropriate. I don't know what you can do about it now, but it certainly doesn't seem to make sense that they pay billions of dollars to Russia and now we have to defend them against Russia.
Meanwhile, Chancellor Angela Merkel fired back at U.S. President Trump after he accused Berlin of being a, quote, captive of Russia, referring to Berlin's deal for the gas pipeline. And she said Germany makes independent decisions. Take a look.
Ich möchte aus gegebenem Anlass hinzufügen, dass ich erlebt habe auch selber, dass ein Teil Deutschlands von der Sowjetunion kontrolliert wurde. Und ich bin sehr froh, dass wir heute in Freiheit vereint sind als die Bundesrepublik Deutschland und dass wir deshalb auch sagen können, dass wir unsere eigenständige Politik machen können und eigenständige Entscheidungen fällen können. Und das ist sehr gut, gerade für die Menschen in den neuen Bundesländern.
Moscow on Thursday said U.S. President Donald Trump's attacks on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that is set to bring gas from Russia to Germany amounted to unfair competition. We have said before that we consider this to be unfair competition, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, adding that it was an attempt to force European buyers to purchase more expensive gas from elsewhere. He said Nord Stream 1 and 2 are purely commercial projects that correspond to the interests of suppliers of natural gas and the buyers of natural gas in Western Europe. He said Trump's remarks, which came as he berated Germany at the start of a NATO summit on Wednesday, were likely to complicate discussions when he meets his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, next week. For decades, Russia has shown and continues to show it is a reliable supplier of energy security to Europe.
Billions of dollars to Russia, and now we have to defend them against Russia. Now,
Meanwhile, after the NATO summit, President Trump held a press conference, and he hailed tremendous progress on the defense spending commitments by NATO members. Take a look.
Meeting with President Putin on Monday, and I think we go into that meeting not looking for so much. We want to find out about Syria. We will, of course, ask your favorite question about meddling. I will be asking that question again. We really accomplished a lot with respect to NATO. For years, presidents have been coming to these meetings and talked about the expense, the tremendous expense for the United States, and tremendous progress has been made. Everyone's agreed to substantially up their commitment they're going to up it at levels that they've never thought of before. Meeting with President Putin.
Now, Trump said an additional $33 billion would be spent on defense by NATO allies in a relatively short number of years. As a result of the emergency meeting, President Trump also said NATO is now very unified, very strong, no problem. The NATO leaders in Brussels have indicated concerns about a meeting in Helsinki planned for July 16 between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, President Trump shocked some by saying on July 10 that the NATO summit might be more difficult than his talks with President Putin.
So much we want to find out about meeting with President Putin on Monday, and I think we go into that meeting not looking for so much. We want to find out about Syria. We will, of course, ask your favorite question about meddling. I will be asking that question again. But we'll also be talking about other things. We'll be talking about Ukraine. Meeting with President Putin on Monday.
An Islamic State group affiliate seized a village in the southern Syria overnight from rebels who had agreed to a regime takeover, a Britain-based monitor said Thursday. Much of the southern province of Daraa had been quiet since Friday when a ceasefire deal between rebels and the Russian-backed regime ended a nearly 3-week government assault. But Jaish Khalid bin Walid, a local is a branch that controls a small corner in the southwest of the province on the border with Jordan and close to the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, is not included in that deal. Overnight into Thursday, the jihadists took control of the village of Heat near the Jordanian border, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights monitoring said. Since June 19, the regime has been pressing military and negotiation efforts to retake the whole of Daraa and the adjacent Kunitera province from the opposition. President Bashar al-Assad's regime has retaken more than 60% of the country since 2015 when Russia intervened militarily to bolster it. Syria's civil war has killed more than 350,000 people and displaced millions since it started in 2011 with a brutal crackdown of anti-Assad protests.
Israel launched airstrikes against 3 military posts in Syria, according to its army, after intercepting what it described as the incursion of an unarmed drone into its territory. The attack came hours after Israel's military fired a Patriot missile to knock down an unmanned aerial vehicle, or UAV, that strayed across Syria's ceasefire line with its neighbor. Earlier on Wednesday, the Israeli army said the downed drone may have been on an intelligence mission. The remains of the UAV and the Patriot were found on the southern shore of the Sea of Galilee, some 10 kilometers beyond the ceasefire line with Syria, according to military spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. It wasn't clear if it had strayed across the line unintentionally. Israel has been on alert in recent weeks over fighting in southern Syria, warning that ceasefire lines between the two countries must be respected. Spillover fire from Syria's civil war has occasionally landed in the Israeli-controlled Golan Heights. Israel is particularly worried about the presence of Damascus ally Iran next door in Syria. The news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back.
captures the value of life, creating your moments, kindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. This is your world, your life, your garden.
Health is our most important asset.
The EU on Thursday slashed its growth forecast for the Eurozone in 2018, warning that the rising trade tensions with the United States were hitting the economy. The European Commission, the EU's executive arm, said the 19-country single currency bloc would expand by 2.1% in 2018, lower than the 2.3% forecast just weeks ago in early May. The worry about the European economy stems from the ongoing trade dispute with the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump, which has now threatened to impose tariffs on European auto imports, with German auto giants the intended target. If confirmed, the policy would be one of the most aggressive transatlantic blows since the Great Depression. The threat by Trump comes after the mercurial leader already slapped 25% tariffs on steel and 10% on aluminum on imports from Europe and other key allies. The Commission also pointed to political and policy uncertainty in a number of EU countries as an important downside risk to the forecast, which included the fallout of stalled Brexit talks.
In other news, the indigenous community of the Ecuadorian Amazon rejoices after the country's highest court upheld a ruling, a $9.5 billion damages award against oil giant Chevron over decades of pollution that harmed indigenous people.
Es una pena por eso, que tenga tanto tiempo, 25 años, un cuarto de siglo, buscando justicia. Pero también la alegría de que finalmente esa persistencia de los pueblos, esa unidad de los pueblos, da sus frutos. Y aquí estamos. sentencia en la Corte Constitucional del día de ayer no es únicamente una sentencia contra Chevron, es contra el sistema de impunidad corporativa que rige en el planeta entero. Es contra el crimen corporativo global directamente, de que los pueblos indígenas, campesinos juntos, son capaces de lograr acceso a la justicia.
Customers are now more demanding and they want more options, lower prices, and even delivery rights to their doorsteps. E-commerce is making this possible. From flowers to funerals, some quarters say that you are left behind if your company is not into e-commerce. Cesar Vallejos was at the Marriott Hotel to discover the latest trends in the business model that redefines how we buy and sell commodities today. Here's the report.
The Asia CEO Forum focused on the latest developments in the world of e-commerce here at the Asia Ecom Summit 2018 at the Manila Marriott. From delivery systems, payment technologies, and marketing and business operations in the world of e-commerce, the Asia Ecom Summit 2018 presented disruptive technologies that is now transforming customer experiences.
The Ecom Summit 2018 gathered the key personalities and organizations in the country who share their insights and ideas that are redefining the traditional ways of selling and buying products and services. In his opening remarks, LBC Express Chief Marketing Officer Javier Manticon enumerated some of the many pain points of consumers in today's e-commerce business.
With the changes that the expectation of the consumers in e-commerce, it's now but natural for companies like us and our colleagues to now shift and change and adapt with the times. Customer experience is basically a #1 priority, and we need to work with our partners, co-vendors, competitors in order to build this industry better in the Philippines. Okay, in the Philippines, there's high internet penetration now, mobile penetration even higher, but the true number of online purchases, when we say online, true online, all the way from end to end, is still very low. So there's a big opportunity for people online to be able to do e-commerce digitally. And that's where we're trying to focus on. So pain points are low credit card. How do you go pagdating sa probinsya? Mga low credit card penetration, security of the transaction online. So there's scams now and a lot of this data fraud. So being able to make sure that the vendors or the sites you're buying for also are secured. So these are the main pain points, logistics to be able to reach that, collections of money that I've mentioned as the main pain points of being able to transcend our e-commerce industry from where we are now to the next level.
According to sources, 65% of internet users in the Philippines are online shoppers, but only 15% truly use online for their shopping requirements. Also discussed during the Ecom Summit is how logistics is transforming digital commerce, making transactions a delightful experience. Logistics is now the maker or breaker of customer experience. Speakers and participants came from various industries that includes banking, cosmetics, publishing, telecommunications, real estate, and startups. Asia Ecom Summit was a presentation of platforms and solutions that address the new challenges of customers in e-commerce transactions.
When people are already transacting and then you add a layer of mobile payments, then you facilitate the transaction that is already happening, and that is where you get traction.
You know, for weeks and months later, but Ernie, so well done, a very sincere, decent guy.
Reporting from the Marriott Hotel, this is Cesar Vallejos.
Taiwan's visa exemption program for Filipinos is officially extended until July 31, 2019. Now, this has been announced by the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office, or TECO, earlier today. The move was an extension of the visa-free trial period and will be subject to review until it lapses next year. In a statement, new TECO representative to the Philippines, Michael Payung-Shu, said the initiative will surely enhance both parties' friendship and further strengthen their multifaceted cooperation. At the same time, he appealed for a reciprocation so as to attract more Taiwanese tourists and businessmen to visit the country. The number of Taipei and Manila's two-way visitors hit a record high in 2017 when Filipino travelers going to Taiwan reached 290,784 and the Taiwanese visitors to the Philippines reached 236,777. Once considered, Shu assured this will produce a positive impact on Taipei and Manila's areas of partnership, particularly in tourism, investment, trade, education, culture, agriculture, and fisheries.
Eagle News International will be right back.
maiwasan ang labis na kahirapan at kagutuman, Isa sa nakikitang solusyon ang gulayan sa bakuran. Ang gulayan sa bakuran ay uri ng backyard gardening o munting taniman ng gulay para mapagkunan ng pagkain.
Tiyakin lang na sa itatanim na mga gulay dapat maging pili. Ang mga buto o binhi may sapat na lupang pagtatamnan o plating bukod sa may distansya. Ang bawat isang halaman kailangan din ng sapat na pagdidilig, pagtatanggal sa damo at paglalagay ng pataba.
Bukod sa makakatipid, isang stress reliever ang pag-aalaga ng mga tanim, lalo na't nakikita mo itong lumalago at iyong inaani. Higit sa lahat, makakakain ka ng sariwang gulay mula sa iyong pinagpaguran. Dahil kapag may tanim sa sariling bakuran at bakanting lote, makatitiyak ka na malinis at ligtas sa kemikal ang kinukonsumong gulay.
At kami po sa mata ng Agila, hinikayat po namin ang lahat na magkaroon ng gulayan sa bakuran.
Mula sa matagumpay na worldwide walk to fight poverty. Nilingap ang mga mamamayan sa Africa.
Thank you very much, Church of Christ.
Thank you very much. We are happy. Thank you very much.
At sa Hulyo 15, malaking lingap laban sa kahirapan ang gagawin ng Iglesia ni Cristo sa pakipagtulungan ng Felix Y. Manalo Foundation sa Carino Grandstand sa Luneta. Abangan ang special coverage ng Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, Iglesia ni Cristo, lingap laban sa kahirapan.
Tears and cries of joy, hugs and chants, firecrackers and flares. Croatia was on fire after their victory against England set up a first-ever appearance in a World Cup final. Croatia beat England 2-1 in extra time thanks to Mario Mandzukic's goal in the second period of extra time to book a date with France in Moscow on Sunday. Croatia began preparations for the first World Cup final in their history on Thursday after they came from behind to crush England's hope in an enthralling contest. The Balkan nation of just 4 million people will play France on Sunday after Mario Mandzukic, extra-time winner in Wednesday semi-final, prolonged England's 52-year-old wait to reach a second World Cup final. England roared into the lead in just the 5th minute through Kieran Trippier's superb free kick that Croatia hit back through Ivan Perisic and Mandzukic to win 2-1 in front of 78,000 spectators in the Luzhniki Stadium. In beating Gareth Southgate's young team, Croatia have surpassed the achievements of the heroes of 1998 when they reached the semi-finals in France in their first World Cup as an independent nation. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of fans throughout the country, from the northern port of Rijeka to Dubrovnik in the south or in the eastern city Osijek, celebrated the victory on the streets and squares, signing popular fan songs and waving Croatian red, white, blue flags. Some stores closed early to enable employees to watch the match, with various concerts, plays, and cinema screenings canceled.
Meanwhile, world welterweight champion Lucas Matisse saluted Manny Pacquiao, but said he's fully prepared to defend the title ahead of their WBA title clash on Sunday. Take a look.
This is one of the best fight that we are going to do against Lucas Matisse, because Lucas Matisse is very aggressive and throwing a lot of punches. So.
Siempre lo estuvimos mirando, la verdad que siempre decía que bueno de ser pelear con un peleador así como el Manny Pacquiao. La verdad que sí, siempre quise pelear con alguien como él, así que nada, hoy estoy muy orgulloso de haber llegado hasta el otro lado del mundo para enfrentarlo. La verdad que estoy muy orgulloso.
And don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Alma Angeles, and we're one with 25.